Kudos, hats off to the Bucks. They needed to win an elimination game. They were at home. The home team has won every game in this Eastern Conference second round series, semifinal between the Bucks and the Nets. So it's not unexpected that the Bucks dominated the way that they did. What was unexpected in some ways is how dead the Nets looked. Now, I don't want to blow this up because I think it was kind of expected. Kevin Durant played 48 minutes in game five, I should say. James Harden coming off of a bum hamstring, which he hadn't played. He hadn't really moved at all. He played 46 minutes in that game, and he was very ineffective in game five. He was a little bit more effective in game six, but not so much so that it looked anywhere like the James Harden that we used to know. We've seen these role players who are usually really good for the Nets. I mean, other than Joe Harris, who was great in the regular season, he's been terrible. Some of these other guys have kind of just taken a back seat. Nobody scored in double figures other than the stars of this team, and that's disturbing when you're a team that is I guess one of the best teams in the conference, and it's largely expected to be the representative of the East in the NBA Finals. But what I took away from this is they just don't have the legs to push through this series. I mean, and it feels like, if you get a Herculean night from Kevin Durant, yeah, of course anything could happen. But that's how many times is Kevin Durant going to be asked to carry this team on his back? I come into this game, and if you're rooting for the Nets, and not that I'm rooting for the Nets, but I think they're the team that has the best chance of winning, so I'd like to see them get through, especially because of how compromised Milwaukee feels sometimes. They just play bad basketball. In fact, they didn't even play good basketball last night. They shot 20-something% from three-point range, and if not for Chris Middleton having the game of his playoff life, scoring 38, knocking down, I think, 5 3-pointers, this game is probably closer than it was. I mean, it's hard to look at them and say, yeah, you got a great win. I mean, it was a necessary win. You give them that, but again, the Brooklyn Nets are compromised. Kyrie Irving is on the shelf. We have no idea when he's going to return. You keep searching. It's like, where's the information on Kyrie Irving's ankle injury? We know that he didn't travel, that he's back in Brooklyn trying to get ready for Game 7, but we have no idea if he's going to play. And if he does play, he's got a bum ankle. He's not going to be the Kyrie that we're used to seeing, who's dicing you up and crossing you over and getting to the rim and shooting three-pointers, contested or not. He's not going to be that player. James Harden is not the player that he's used to being. James Harden is a guy who, out of desperation, came back and played in Game 6 and now in Game 7. And I mean, I knew that he was on the shelf. We use this cliche, guys on the shelf. He's on the shelf. James Harden was really on the shelf, and he better be better on both ends of the ball. And I don't mean that defensively, but offensively, he needs to be more of a force as an aggressor. There was a wide open play, I think it was second quarter. There's nobody there in front of him. Instead of going to the rim, whether maybe a little bit of a contested layup, he basically pulls up and plays into the half court. Right? He's compromised, and you can see it. And this team is worn out, and they're not getting enough help from their bench. Jeff Green, who had a huge night a couple nights ago, where he knocked down 7 of 8 3-pointers. He had 5 points. Joe Harris, again, one of the best shooters in the NBA. And we're not saying that flippantly. Statistically, he's one of the best shooters in the NBA. He was 4 of 9 and had 9 points. James Harden, who is usually, very dynamic, again, he's compromised, so it's hard to fault him. He had 16 points. Their bench gave them 14 points, and it was mostly in garbage time after the game was over. They just don't have the horses, and they look dead. Now, can they win Game 7? Can the Brooklyn Nets find a way to rally from whatever doldrums are holding them down, this fatigue of a season that was spent battling injuries and not having, your full complement of players all the time, playing different lineups all over the time, all over the place. Hell, they've had 4 different starting lineups in this postseason already. Yes, can they rally in Game 7 at home with the energy in Brooklyn because they're at their own place? Yeah, of course they can. Is it likely to happen? I just can't see it. I really can't. And I want to. I want to believe that KD can be that guy who drops 49 again or 50 again. But they looked so tired last night. And the biggest stat, the one where it shows up the most, is in fast break points. They had 4 fast break points. They can't even muster to move the rock up and down the court. And so you end up playing in the half court with compromised shooters and banged up players. You're going to lose those. The Milwaukee Bucks, on the other hand, had 26 fast break points. It was almost like they were, all we got to do, even if they make a bucket, all we got to do is move the ball back the other way, and they're not going to defend us. This was, I don't want to say it was an ugly game because it wasn't. You look at what the Bucks did, and it was impressive in a game that they had to win in order to stay alive in this series, but the Bucks didn't play great. They just beat a team that was highly compromised. Yeah, the one thing that I keep hearing about Giannis is he didn't take any three-pointers. He didn't want to shoot the three-pointer, and he shouldn't, because Giannis, when he does what he did last night, which is be aggressive, drive into the lane, create contact, dunk on guys, get to the rim, take those high percentage shots. That's Giannis at his best. Giannis obviously wants to be someone who's one of the greatest of all time, I'm sure. That means I got to develop a long-range shot or a jump shot from 18 to 25 feet. I got to develop that. But if I'm Mike Budenholzer, and Mike is clearly coaching for his job in this postseason, I'm instructing Giannis to do 2 things. One, be a unbelievable rim protector. If you either when you're a man, defense, or you're helping on the weak side, be as aggressive as you possibly can on the defensive side of the ball, especially against this compromised Nets team. But more importantly, as an offensive player, just get into the lane. Right, use your strength and your size and your ability to create down low to be the dominant force that won you 2 MVPs. When he starts trying to be Kevin Durant or someone else who can knock down pretty consistently from 3-point range, that's when the Bucks get in trouble, and that's when Giannis gets in trouble, and this team turns into a shell of what they usually are. A team that was great over the last 2 seasons, really 3 seasons. This season was one of the lesser ones. But if I'm Bud and I'm coaching for my job, I'm telling Giannis, be that Giannis. Don't be the Giannis that wants to be the superstar. You don't need to be that. Right now, you're trying to win a championship. You're trying to at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And the only way that's going to happen is if Giannis is the Giannis that attacks the rim, that plays aggressive in the paint, not the Giannis that wants to be a jump shooter, because he can't win that way. But again, the story for me was the Nets. It was obviously a great game by the Bucks. Again, they had to win Game 6 in order to keep this thing alive, and give Chris Middleton a ton of credit for the game that he had. But this story was the Nets. I look at them, I appreciate the roster construction, but it's almost like the writing has been on the wall for months now, because whether it was a hamstring or Kevin Durant being banged up, taking some time off, whether it was Kyrie Irving, I'm assuming now, because I see these pictures and people, that some of this off time was because his girlfriend had a baby, and so he needed family and personal time to be away. But whatever it is, this team has been disjointed all season long, and so to assume that once the postseason happened, that things would just click and everything would snap into place because they're superstars and they have a pretty good former player and Steve Nash is their head coach, that it was all just going to work, it's naive. Yes, they'll beat the lesser teams, but when you get to the better teams, as you get deeper into the postseason, just hoping it's going to happen or believing it's going to happen without having to prove it's going to happen is a fallacy. So the Nets are fatigued. Kevin Durant, I love his effort, but his tank is empty, man. And because they play so quickly, these games, it feels like they are. Every other day they're playing a game, and I know that's typical, but every other day, and you're playing 45 minutes and then 48 minutes and then 40 minutes. I hope they get lifted when they go home, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen for the Brooklyn Nets. They looked shot last night, and not even getting the 90 points. That's troubling for a team that has one of the best players in the NBA.